Hey guys, it's that time again. It's time for On Social, the show that talks about everything that has to do with social media, marketing, video, live video, professional live video on social media. And today we've got a great show planned for you. But before we get to that, we've got the world traveler back with us, Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. Welcome.
It it's been a while. I've been, gallivanting a little bit, so, yeah, back.
you've been living in the shade in Miami, right?
Well, that was 1 week, and then last week I was in New York City,
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah. Rub it
yeah.
in. Rub it in. And we also have with us the two-time, he's going to get mad at me for saying this, the two-time Emmy Award winner, as you can see on his lower third. We've got Jeffrey Fitzgerald from Jeff and HighDef.tv. Welcome.
Hey, it's always good to be here. I'm starting a Facebook group, by the way, for, like Elvis sightings. They're Marty sightings. People say they may have seen him in New Jersey and Hoboken, and then there's Atlanta or whatever. But it's good that all of us can get back here for a rarity, it seems like.
Well, and it's a we've been kind of holding on to this topic because this is a topic that I know is near and dear to Marty and your heart, and my heart as well, because we see this every day as guys that are in video production in the social media world, is guys gaming the system. And what it does is, and I want to preface this before we get into it, is gaming the system is bad because it ruins it for guys that are loyal and dedicated to their craft like us. Because what happens is these people burn companies because they make themselves out to be something that they're not. And it really hurts the companies and the brands that they're working with. And if if you can identify this, it'll help you and your brand be more successful. I mean, that's what we've been talking about the last couple of months about your brand being more successful, how to get your content. And Marty, I kind of want you to kick this off because you are what everybody has wanted over the last year and a half is you're verified on Twitter. And he hates when I say this, but I'm going to go there anyways. He is deemed an influencer because part of his job is to influence the market. He does marketing. It's what he does. He gets paid to do this, and he's not persuaded by the almighty dollar. He's worked hard. He's gained the accolades that he's gotten, and I want you to kind of talk about the experience that you've seen about people getting verified, and you just kind of shake your head. What does that do to that check mark? What does it do to the authenticity of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with that kinda stuff. I kinda see it as, a resume, and the reason I'm using that as an analogy is I think a lot of people see a resume as the be all end all of getting a job, and it really isn't. It's really a starting point. It's really a way to introduce yourself. So if you're interviewing for a job, you put your resume in and hopefully it gets noticed and it's a sort of a conversation. When you mentioned, getting verified on a social media platform, that it's sort of like the facade of the house. It looks nice, may or may not be real. I don't know. If you can back it up, that's great. But if you're just doing it, I know there are people that strive to get followers or get verified on whatever platform just for the sake of doing it, thinking that it gives them gravitas or gives them authority just for that, without having anything to back it up. And I've used this analogy before, Stephen, where kind of use the house analogy with the foundation and then you build the house and all that stuff. If it's just the check mark and you have nothing else underneath it, there's no foundation, then you might be able, it might stay up for a while. It's like almost like a movie set where you had that false front, but eventually there's nothing supporting it. So it comes crumbling down. So if you don't have anything supporting, that verification or whatever it is, in fact, I see it much more less important. It may get you a starting of a conversation. People
Yeah.
may give you a second look, but then you have to have that conversation. I talk about this in business where, say, you're closing a business deal, and Jeff, and I think you can probably identify with this. You might be able to get that introduction, and then the actual business deal doesn't happen on social media or in the open. You're not doing a presentation to a bunch of people. You're gonna have a private conversation, and then you're gonna think, just like in a job interview, and either you got the goods or you don't, and then you gotta provide, and you gotta actually follow through. and then you're building it up, and it's so it's like, don't get stuck on those marks, because if you don't have the goods to follow up and to prove that you deserve that, and you can deliver, uh, then you're gonna do you more harm good than good, certainly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for me, I think, I have so many thoughts about this on so many different levels. I think that for me, it starts with when you game the system, any system, it's a character issue. There's something deeper going on than just the fact that maybe you're looking for a couple thousand extra eyeballs on your content. And when, if you looked at it as a metaphor of you're now in the Staples Center in LA and all the lights go dark and there's 15,000 people in there and there's a spotlight on the middle of the court and they hand you the microphone, that's where your value is going to come to play. It's not the fact that people have gathered to kind of see something, because those, a lot of times, I've said this many times, we look at likes and follows almost like people are signing up to be part of our Braveheart army. We're going to take the mountain. And in reality, how many times are you clicking like as you still are scrolling to
Right.
something else, right? It's a momentary acknowledgement of, hey, that was kind of cool. And so I think there's a sobriety that needs to kind of happen there. And and I think that, when you try to game in any way, shape, or form, it's really a form of manipulation. And who wants to start off a relationship with a tribe or a customer or anybody for that matter, starting off that way? That's not going to end well.
No, I kind of I agree with that. I know Marty, you're big on that too. Working with customers that have integrity. You as a person, I think everybody should have integrity, but we don't always see that. And I guess I look at it. I'm working with some guys, I've talked about this in past episodes with the retro gaming stuff. We're seeing this boom, and I have some suspicions that there's some guys that are gaming the system because I'm watching their YouTube subscription just kind of jump without them really doing a whole lot. Like, and I say jump by like the thousands every couple days. Like
Mm.
that just it doesn't happen when you look at the metrics between how many views they're getting, how many interactions and comments. It just doesn't add up to a guy like me who I don't really put a lot of emphasis into my YouTube channel about driving people there to subscribe over the last, almost 14 years, like I said. That's more of like I drive people to my website. The YouTube channel, the Twitter, the Instagram, that's kind of like my secondary stuff. And I see a lot of guys like they put all this effort into, YouTube. But when they go to the companies go, "Well, where's your website? Where's your footprint?" They go, "Oh, I don't have that." But I'm an influencer on YouTube, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
bad.
mean, that's a word that is obviously subjective. I think that we're living in a world where we see so many people, so many young people especially, having the nickel-sized plastic diamond earring, and she's carrying the fake Gucci purse.
Yeah.
Um, I think what's really happening in a lot of this is that there's a digital gold rush that's been going on, but the gold is not all in their hills everywhere. It's very, very narrow to find a real win, to really find a connection that's meaningful as an influencer, or really just in business in general. You've really got to work at it. And so I think that just knowing that a lot of people, they want to try to cut to the end of the line and it never works. So
Well, and that's
it,
that.
it's
I
it,
want you guys to think about something going through here, Marty, and I want you to kind of dive into your notes here because you got some great points here to
Mhm.
bring up. Well, I want you to think about this about what you could say to potential brands, companies at the end of this broadcast of how they can tell who's gaming it and who's not gaming it. And I think Marty's smiling because he knows because I think this is going to be valuable to you guys that are watching this, whether you're a company, whether you're somebody building your brand because you want to do it right. So
yeah, I work in the influencer marketing arena with agencies and brands, not necessarily as a direct influencer for myself. I work in the production areas and that type of thing. So I have a lot of interaction with that. And I can tell you, when this influence marketing stuff first started, companies were very naive. They would be You can kind of fake it, and you hear fake it till you make it. You kind of fake it with a lot of the, vanity metrics. You can kind of game the followers, the views, the verifications, and a lot of these companies would be like, "Oh, yeah, he's great," and they would just, like, hire them, and they would be off and running, and they really wouldn't do the due diligence necessary. Now, it's no longer a secret that, "Oh, you can maybe make some money in this. Oh, this is pretty," and it's glamorous, and, you can go to these events and this and that. Now there's everyone in the game, and now these companies, I can tell you, I work with these companies, they are much more sophisticated because they are making a financial commitment as part of their marketing. And so believe me, companies, anybody who makes an investment wants to see return on that investment. They're not gonna just give money for nothing. So if you're legit and you actually are an influencer, that's why, I'm gonna kinda go into my second point here. Honesty and authenticity is everything, certainly. My second point in my notes is there's no substitute for hard work. I hate to break it to everybody, but it takes hard work and dedication to make it in whatever area of expertise you want to be an expert in, or your area of interest. I mean, Stephen, I always bring you up as an example because you have such a long track record of going for, in the live streaming area, the video, the technology area. You taught yourself, you built that foundation, and you put the hard work into it. You didn't look for the quick start guide. You didn't want the, what do I need to do to just kind of get that game the system and get noticed right away.
Hmm.
Because if you do that, that it's really no going it's not going to have any lasting success because it's all going to be stripped away. There's nothing holding up the foundation. So nothing great happens when you refuse to do the work. I mean, it's like, and when when you're learning, like I'll bring myself up for an example. I'm a video editor. I edit podcasts and all. I'm constantly trying to learn my craft, and a lot of it is just due diligence, practicing,
Yeah.
getting better. It's like learning a musical instrument, right? You're not a virtuoso overnight. You just got to put the work in, and hopefully you pick something you enjoy because you like doing the work. But if you don't put the work in and learn how things are or learn how things work, you're just not gonna be able to success long term.
And Jeff, you didn't just wake up one day and start talking and be a great speaker and video editor. I mean, you've been doing this for years. I mean, you said you did this on radio and in the past, so you put in your time.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite, saying is, "I never met a microphone I didn't like." So I guess that says something about wanting to do it. But yeah, I love what Marty said because I think that there are so many who are not realizing that when you game or however we want to define that word, whatever it is for you, that when you know that you're trying to buy value, it's because you don't have any. Nobody goes out and buys eggs when they've got a lot of eggs and milk and everything else, right? You have to understand that when you're doing that, that's a sign that maybe you should slow that down and turn toward learning, turn toward networking, turn toward mentors, get in front of people who can help you get where you're going because you do have value. You have a lot of value, but you either don't understand it or you don't know how to articulate it. One of those two things might be going on. And so you're thinking, hey, I'm going to, find a Facebook page in China and pay somebody to, say nice things about me. Well,
Right.
we know that that doesn't work on any level. And I'll give you a real quick example of what this reminds me of. 25 years ago, I was teaching at a cable access station, and it's where I met my future wife. And there was a gentleman running through there who had changed his name to Christopher Royce, I guess kind of like Rolls Royce. He wore suspenders and the bow tie. He was a motivational speaker like Matt Foley. And he would take these big pictures in front of these beautiful mansions and these nice cars. He had the big watch, except the house was not his. He would pull in front of somebody's house in one of the ritzier neighborhoods, rented the car for an hour. The watch was borrowed. And the pinnacle of all this was is that he approached my wife at one point and said, "Hey, I want you to come on my show and talk about how my book changed your life." And she's like, "Great, when can I get a copy?" He goes, "I haven't written it yet." And that's exactly where a lot of people are today. They think that there's really no value. It's just people are just getting lucky somehow, and it's just a celebrity status star power that'll get you there. That's what might maintain you, a big personality, but you got to have something that everybody would love to get a little bit of value out because you do have value. And if you can share that with the world, you'll actually see people coming forward one or two at a time saying, "Hey, that was kind of cool." That'll build your confidence. You'll be, maybe work toward a bigger message or a bigger calling. But I'm a big believer in vision. I think you got to start with vision in your message, and hopefully, Hopefully, you're not trying to write books or sell books that haven't been written yet. So,
Well, and before we get to Marty's other point, one of the things that you mentioned, Marty, about and Jeff, you even said about bringing value, right? So even the outdoor space that I had been building over the last 2 years, I got involved with a cooler company, one that makes like coolers and tumblers and things like you guys have seen, like Yeti coolers. There's different ones out there. But the company that I started with, I started as a what they call a pro staffer, and what that doesn't mean is you're a pro. It's professional staffer or a promotional staffer, is what it is, because you're basically a glorified you're promoting them. That's your glorified marketing guy for them. They're providing you product. You're going out and you're promoting it. So what they found was because of the influence, I guess you can say, people liked the brand. They liked my brand, and we started putting our logo on their products, and they started selling. So then they invited me to become what's called a partner, right? So, or a collaborator. So now they built a store on their website of a bunch of different coolers. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen tumblers with our logo on it. And they have been branding merchandise, hats, because it's selling. Did I go out there and say, hey, I'm an influencer, you need to do this for me? No, I started at the ground level, went in just like everybody else, but I allowed the work to show it. I didn't go in there and make promises I couldn't keep. I just basically said, look, this is what my following is right now. Take a chance with me. Let me on this pro staff, and it'll do the work. And you know, um, just to kind of prove this, last month I made $1,500 in royalties. Now some people might say, well, that's not a lot of money, but for a brand that's under 2 years old, I would say that's pretty good money for royalties on
Right.
products that they're all I have to do is promote it. All I have to do is say, "Hey, look it. My logo is on this, on this cooler or whatever. Go buy it. Looks great." So there's something what you're saying, Marty, about putting in your time and doing the work, because you have to make a name for yourself. You got to present. He's 100% right. You got to make yourself valuable. That's why we've been able to do this on the show. The Telestream knows that we know what we're talking about when it comes to broadcasting. And so because of them, and we're thankful for that they've allowed us to do this show. And I'm going to take this opportunity right now to talk about a product that we think you all should try. If you're a fan of the On Social show here, if you head over to telestream.net/onsocial and then go up to the products category, there is a product that we really think that you guys should go out and try, and it's called Wirecast. If you want to have the professional video that you're seeing right here, we encourage you guys to start with Wirecast 1. It's $249. It's a product that each one of us here are using right now in our productions. We've gone as far as we've got Wirecast Pro, we've got the Wirecast gearboxes. I mean, we've gone full fledged, but maybe $249 is not where you're at right now. Like you don't have the whistles and bells. You're just kind of like, I'm still learning. If you've got an iPhone, and I don't know, do you guys use the Wirecast Go app? And I think it's $5 if you want to go to RTMP. You could
That's
stack some
awesome.
layers on your phone. You can add graphics. Get in. I'm telling you. I mean, there's a way that you can produce video even using your phone for the audience here on Social, and then graduate up to a desktop application that's $249. And honestly, guys, I wish it was that cheap when I started, because
So
Wirecast Pro was like $1,000, man.
I paid over 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great introductory price, and you can grow, and you don't have the learning curve when you go to different versions. You get more features. So that's one of the cool things that Telestream has done. And again, we're really thankful for Telestream to allow us to do this show. And we encourage you guys to go download the trial. If you have any questions, hit one of us up. Telestream's also got a great group of folks in the support and sales that they can also answer any questions that you have. But again, we really appreciate it, and just wanted to kind of give them a shout out. But Marty, let's kind of get back to what do you have? Your third point here, right?
yes, just to kind of put a capper on before I get to the third point, we talked a lot about gaming, and you may be able to fool people for a short time, but when your truth is revealed, it's over, and that's kind of what you were presenting, Stephen. It's just not worth it. You just got to put the work in, because once you lose if you say if you're building community and it's not really built on reality, people are going to find out, and once you lose that trust, because a lot of this stuff is based on trust, it's all over. Even if you try to do it again, it's all, and if you're on Facebook and if you're into this space, you've seen the stories out there, and it's just not worth it. You may be able to string people along for a while, but if you're looking for a long-term relationship, it's not going to last. So the final point I want to kind of cover here is talk a little bit about, well, if you're not gaming the system, what's the best way to go? And it's really, as I said, putting the work in. Fundamentals are really the key to building a solid foundation of success. I mean, I use the house analogy a lot. Um, again, if you have a house and you don't have a solid foundation, you have a problems with your foundation. It's probably one of the worst things you can have. Uh, then you run the risk of the actual structure, losing integrity and coming down, or you really having serious damage. It may look good for a while. You may be able to put some repairs up, but over time, the whole thing's going to come down because you don't have that solid foundation. I- you know, a lot of people, they want that quick start guide. It's not necessarily glamour. Even if hopefully you like the space that you're in. You
Hmm.
enjoy doing what you're doing. um, it may not be glamour, and I'll use myself an example: video editing. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world to really learn your nonlinear editor and learning all the techniques and practicing it and getting better and learning techniques, learning different edits, actually going through the process. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world. It can be a little bit boring. It's repetitious, but especially if you're doing it for a business, it's imperative that you do, not only delivering a good product, but also your integrity
Hmm.
and your reputation is everything, right? So you have to do that. I would also say this: commit to a long learning. You may get to a certain level where you're like, say, a video editor. You're comfortable with whatever platform that you're using, and you're proficient, and you can even consider yourself an expert at some level. But things are always changing. Stephen and I and Jeff, we talk about this all the time. In the live video space, it's always changing. You always have to be learning. Any profession, you always got to be committed to learning the new things.
That's right.
And again, getting back to this, a solid foundation will lead to lasting success and will cement your reputation with your audience and community. I kind of live by that. It's very true. It's the longer road. It's the way to long term success. You may be tempted by that quick start guide. Well, yeah, when you buy a new piece of electronic equipment, what's the first thing to pull out? It's always that quick start one sheeter, right? That you want to get the TV up and running.
You
All
you
well and
you
good.
actually you actually pull those out?
I do, because you get impatient. You want to get it up and running,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Then you
Get it up
break
and running.
something.
Yeah, make sure you go back and Stephen, we've done this with like troubleshooting, right? Because we know what we're doing. It's
Yeah.
not the most glamorous stuff in the world, but then again, you can replicate it. You know what you're doing, and over time, you
Yep.
get better, and then you can actually replicate it and put it together. So.
I know. Jeff, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think, he hit every one of those points out of the park. I think, when we look at people, who are trying to do something like this, even before they get to the point where they wanna be an influencer, or maybe they're thinking they're getting it, toward that realm with their value, you got to look at what other people, just everyday people, look at as somebody who would be able to influence them. It's actually somebody who doesn't know all the answers, who doesn't know everything, who has some great perspective or insight to offer, and they can throw it out there and you can chew on it and think about it. But the real influencers in our life are people that, most often would never know that they're an influencer to us, because they're just them. That's the whole you
Mhm.
being you, authenticity 101 on live streaming. And we all met on Blab, 4 years ago. I can't believe that it's been that long. I can think of a 23-year-old life coach, who had he had 3 letters after his name. I think it was like, CSD or something like this, and it was like Common Sense Dude, but he made it look like he was actually this guy who knew all these things. Cheer great, you could try that, but it didn't go very well because people were basically eating him up every time he went live. They're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And he didn't prepare. So the moral of that story is, if you're really gonna do something like this, stay in your lane. Find something you really do know some things about in a unique way, in a unique perspective where you can actually share with other people because they're gonna gravitate to you because they are like, "Okay, this guy's got some angle here I haven't thought about before." But, yeah, Blab was a nice breeding ground for every, person to move up the LinkedIn ladder, so to speak. They would enter Blab as a mailroom employee, and then the next day they were CEO. So, there's a little bit of a walk in between there in real
Well,
life. So,
I think that's where I really was awoken to the gaming the system, where I really learned that there's people out there that actually game the system. Because these people that claim to be video experts, and it was hilarious because Marty, I mean, we make jokes about this, like get your popcorn, but literally, myself, Marty, and Brad, a gentleman that's in the chat, we would get on Skype and watch these shows that supposed experts eating our popcorn and sitting there and be like, oh my, and we wouldn't say anything in the chat room. We wouldn't like troll them or anything.
We're not into trolling. We don't
No,
do
we
that.
were sitting there going like,
right.
and Marty would sit there and use it and say, "Look, now this is a prime example of somebody that's gaming the system." And all you would do is if somebody asked you, "Should I go pay so and so much money?" We would say, "You know what? That it's your decision, but I really don't think they know as much as they say or think." I would ask them XYZ questions and see how they respond. And then when they would do that, they would respond like they didn't have the answer. They realized, maybe so and so expert really wasn't
Oops.
so and so expert, right? So,
Well, I mean, but even the word expert is subjective, right? I mean, for me, I accept people in their journey wherever they're at. They may not be where I'm at in a place, or I may, especially with my bass playing, and there's Brad Llewellyn out there, people who know how to play. So I get it when people are still trying to give to their community, give to their world, even when they're maybe not at a place that somebody else is. That we're not on a totem pole system, right? But at the same time, I think you have to just be aware that all of us crave identity, purpose, security, and acceptance. And if you're not delivering value in one of those four silos, most likely you're not going to get anywhere in the long run. And so people who don't really think about meaningful content, meaningful value, they end up trying some other crazy thing. And they're working at
and
Hardee's a couple years
and
later.
that's the problem. Like you're exactly right. Everybody's like, I always feel like I'm learning every day. I learn something new all the time.
Absolutely.
These guys call themselves experts, and to somebody that, like, if I know more than you might consider me an expert, or if you know more than me, I might consider you an expert in that. But that's a personal opinion of somebody. Like, hey, you need to talk. Like we always say,
Right.
hey, you need to talk to John Mahoney. You want to know anything NDI? Go talk to John Mahoney. He's an
Right.
expert in that. Um, that's something that we've said about him. He didn't say that about himself. But there are people out there that say, hey, I'm an expert in all this, and there's nothing I don't know. And those are the guys, I think we'd all agree, those are the guys you really got to watch out for, because they don't look at it the same way we see
That's
it.
my red flag.
Yeah.
When the
Yeah.
self-described expert, that's the red flag. It's like, it's like, to me, if someone wants to call you an expert, that's up to them. That's their judgment. And if they see value, and also there's different levels, right? So someone, like, if we're helping someone with live video question and they're just starting out, it could be the very basic stuff. And to them, that's expert material. We also might be dealing with someone that's very
Right.
advanced, and there might be something we don't know, and to them,
Yeah.
we're not such an
Right.
expert.
Right.
It's all relative, right? So that's why it's very dangerous to be self-described, because it's really not up to you. It's about the value that others see in it. It's
Yeah.
not you, you know? I mean, so it's like I always stay away from it. I just move forward
You
and let
mean you don't have
others
that in your,
decide.
that didn't help you get Twitter verified? You didn't have that in your profile on Twitter, that you were an expert in video and
So
video production
I
and
have no idea. It's weird because I have no idea. Yeah, I just submitted my application, and I
you
don't
know
know.
what? I just realized something. That's why I didn't get verified. Because back in 2013, when I was on the cover of the magazine Business Chronicle, I didn't put that in my Twitter profile.
Oh yeah, I
That's
think
what it was. I believe
Yeah,
it. I think that's what it was.
I used to work for ESPN, so I think that maybe has something to do with it. So
But I don't
media.
I
So
so wow, you didn't put that in your profile bio though,
I did,
so oh,
I
you
did.
did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, that could have been it. I think at the time they were taking applications, I think that had some bearing. They would kinda zero in on media connections, so I'm just guessing, I don't know at all, so
So you just
Well, at least be thankful back in the day there were actually humans looking at this stuff, right? It's all it
yeah.
sounds like, you know?
yeah,
No, I mean, I'm obviously I'm joking, but everybody has different accolades that they could list, and I think that the accolades, like even I mentioned about the magazine cover, I have it framed, I have it on my wall, but it's not just to be sit there and be pompous like I'm on a magazine. It's an inspiration for me when I come into the studio and I see it, and I have it right
there
so
you
I can see it when I come in the studio to inspire me to say, look where you've been, look where you've come from,
Right.
and the
It's
future looks
validation.
bright. That's all it's there for. It's not for I don't even bring when people come into the studio, if people see it, they see it. I don't go like, "Hey, look, I was on the cover of a magazine." I don't do that. That is more for inspiration for me to kind of say, "Okay, I'm making strides. I'm making progress. I'm moving forward." What are we going to create today? Type of thing.
It's
It's
a great way to look at it.
self motivation. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also hang up. You guys can't see it, but over here to my left, I have every badge that I've ever gotten at a trade show that I've gone to. And some people say, "Well, so what? It's a badge, a trade show. I've been to 20. I've got 50 of them." I look at that as accomplishments all the way back to the very first one that I've gone to, and I look at the different changes and the different brands that I've gone with and how I've gotten there. And again, it's inspiration. Like just keep trucking hard. And I have different things like
Yeah.
that throughout the studio.
Yeah, Steve, you bring up a good point. Maybe that's a topic for a future show because I think what you're really talking about is going back in your own journey, your own timeline, and finding those milestones that had meaning, had some real, and I don't want to keep overusing the word value, but to you, they're valuable. They validate you, right? And I think it's really important to really look at how far you wherever you are in your live stream or just journey in life, to go back and really look at, man, wow, so far I'm 100% for surviving every day that I didn't think I was going to survive. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And if you strive for having influence versus being an influencer, you're probably on the right track.
I think you're right. I think we need to cover something like that. But I think when I look at this, that doesn't tell me I'm an influencer or anything. It just tells me I'm on the right path. That's the only validation that I need. I don't need
Sure.
somebody to sit there and tell me you're an influencer. And it's great if they do, but it's not. That's not my validation. All the hard work hangs from those badges. All the hard work is in that magazine. All the hard work is some of the other accolades that I have that people don't know about. Um, those are the things that for myself that I hold on to when I look around and I go, dang, I have done a lot. When on the days that we've all been there, we feel like quitting. You just why am I doing this? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's something to keep in mind. So don't get I guess the bottom line here is don't get overwhelmed with, hey, I'm not an influencer status. I'm not verified. I'm not companies aren't looking at me. Just put in the work and it will come. It's like Marty says to me all the time, the cream rises to the top, right? So if you put in the hard work, you'll rise to the top, and there's nothing that can stop it. It's just the way it is. You put in your work, you do your due diligence. We're gonna kind of leave you with that, and wrap this up. But Jeff, as always, thanks for joining us. Jeff in High Def, you can check him out, jeffinhighdef.tv. What's the major project that you're working on right now? A live show? What do we got going on here?
Oh, I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning editing. I'm editing a promo video for the former lead singers of the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Platters, and the Drifters. And I do a lot of work with PR companies, and I've had a wonderful opportunity to put together a tour tape, basically to get them in new venues and things. And I went to their show in Alexandria at a what I would call like one of these old 1940s style nightclubs about a week ago, and was absolutely blown away by how good these gentlemen are. Some of them are a little older now in their 70s, but man, they've got the sound and the style, and they're still killing it. It's called The Voices of Classic Soul, and you can look them up online. It's just an incredible thing. So hopefully the video will be up here in the next week, and you'll have it there too.
Well, hopefully, because we'd like to see it. We could probably show it on here and kind of show
Yeah,
some of your
yeah,
work. That'd be really awesome. Also, want to thank
yeah, I love it.
Mr. Marty McPadden from Podjam.tv. And any trips in the future here?
I'm home next week, and I think it's the week after, second week of March. I'm in Chicago for an event.
Yeah, and then
Never
he's
stop.
he'll be he'll be out there, and so we'll keep up with Marty's travels. Hopefully, he can put a video together and show us some of the things that he's been working on. And guys, really appreciate you guys coming out. And for those that are watching live, stay tuned for the post show as we get into some of these tips really quick on Wirecast. But we appreciate you stopping in, tuning in. Go check out the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Wirecast Tube and Telestream Tube on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Telestream and at Wirecast, and also on Instagram. You can find us everywhere Telestream and Wirecast is found. Guys, if you want to follow me, just look me up. I'm the Tech Buzz pretty much everywhere. And we will see you next time here for On Social.